for Gender Equality, step in the right direction, a review of the implementation of the CGE recommendations by African Rainbow Minerals. And then we're going to consider and adopt our oversight report to the mines that we visited in Northwest and Gauteng. And we're going to deal with the consideration of our minutes. You would remember that as part of our induction, we received training from Vets Institute on mining, and there was in that workshop a strong emphasis on artisanal and small-scale mining. And there are some lessons we learned there. Amongst others was that there are about 44 million people globally working in artisanal and small-scale mining industry. We also learned that 150 million people depend on that sector across 80 countries in the global south, and of which 20% of the global gold supply, 20% of the global gold supply is from the artisanal and small-scale mining. So is the 20% of the diamonds globally. 26% of global tantalum is from the industry as well, the artisanal and small-scale mining, as well as the 25% of the global tin mine productions. So we also learned that 40 to 50% of artisanal small-scale mining workforce in Africa alone are women, which makes it important that we get interested in artisanal and small-scale mining. And really the above numbers just signifies that the industry, the artisanal and small-scale mining industry directs us to have interest and call the department to really take us through on what is being done for this industry. And it's one of the focus areas we are going to have on the 7th administration as the portfolio committee. Honorable members, the briefing we are expecting from the department will also include the Junior Mining Fund. And this is because it is important for the committee to ensure that this industry as well is supported. The aim is to ensure that the artisanal and small-scale mining at some point grows to the level of junior mining industry. And probably grow beyond to become the mainstream mining industry. And that's why we're going to play a robust role in this regard, so that we ensure the supporting of the junior mining industry in South Africa. With that said, honorable members, I would like now to take the apologies. Ms. Boss.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable Ministers, and our guest. Chair, I received the following apologies: the Deputy Minister, She's leading a delegation to Geneva, so she won't be in this meeting. And also Honorable Zungula would like to be excused at 11:30, Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Lorima.
Chair, could I add to that the apology of my colleague Mr. Zonda, who is ill today?
Any addition from the department? None. Okay. With those apologies, honorable members, we will go straight to it, and I will hand over to the Minister to take us through on the first presentation. Honorable Minister. Can you take it outside, please?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, and DMPR team. DMPR. So, we're bringing two presentations, Honorable Chairperson. The first one is on Junior Mining Exploration Fund, and the next one is on artisanal and small-scale mining projects. Those are the two presentations. I will start with the Junior Mining Exploration Fund. Without that, the department will brief the portfolio committee. But the portfolio committee wants a detailed analysis. They will invite the CGS as an entity responsible to work directly with ITC on this fund. The reason that we went to this is one, exploration benefit to South Africa compared to the world was at 5%, is below 1% now. We want to increase it to the 5% that it used to be at. And we have done some analysis that we discovered that after the fact that we're now given 0.8% as our share of the global expenditure of mining, has a number of factors contributing. For example, the global assessment focused on listed companies. Other exploration efforts are not included in that percentage. So that is one thing that we have discovered. I think that our view is understated in this regard. But anyway, we want to increase it because it is important to increase it. Because the importance of exploration is that there is no mining without exploration. Exploration is the beginning of mining. That's where it starts before it goes to mining engineers who design and build mines. Before it goes to metallurgists who separate mineral from rocks. That is the value chain of mining. The DJ is going to lead the presentation. The sector that we're in contributes 425.6 million rand to the GDP, which is 6.2%. But ironically, it is contributing much higher value to export earnings for the country. So that was the two contradictory positions of the mining industry. It is contributing 6.2% to the GDP, but when it comes to the issue of export earnings, it earns more, far more than what it contributes to the GDP. And then therefore, the presentation will talk to the ambitious plan we're having as a department and how far have we gone with the fund. That's far because it doesn't help to have a fund if there are no beneficiaries. It will only mean something when there are beneficiaries. And with your permission, Honorable Chairperson, I would ask the DJ to lead the presentation.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Good morning to you. Good morning to the Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. Minister, we are a team here that will be doing the two presentations. I have DDG Nzimande, who will take us through the first presentation, and DDG Thabo Kekana, who will take us through the second presentation. With your permission, I will hand over to DDG Nzimande, who will take us through a detailed presentation on the exploration fund, and then as a team we will deal with the questions as they come up after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, DG. Morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, Honorable Minister, colleagues. So I will start maybe with commenting on the contradiction that Minister has highlighted that we are seeing in terms of the contribution of the sector. And this is partly a function of price of commodities, because you would find that, like currently, the price of gold is quite good. So gold is declining in terms of production, decline by value, decline by volume, and yet there is an increase in export needs. So that's the nature of commodities over time. Now, on the looking at, despite this contribution to the GDP and by value and earnings, there is a concern which we sought to respond to through the drafting of the exploration strategy in 2022, which is a huge decline in the percentage of exploration, global exploration spend that comes into this economy. So as one of the responses or interventions we came up with in the exploration strategy was an implementation plan which spoke to the establishment of a fund. And that fund really is about government being intentional about driving exploration, because it is only through exploration that new mines are developed and discoveries are made. And this decline over time, we've seen it moving from about 5% to 1% currently in terms of what we attract or what comes into this economy on a global scale. And this is just a graph indicating the point I've just spoken to. It shows a decline from about 5.42% to just less than 1% between 2004 and 2022. And this is what we are responding to with the strategy and the fund. Quickly, this slide, courtesy of PwC, just gives us a sense of numbers of what investments into exploration stands to deliver to the economy. And the study shows that every 1 billion rands spent on exploration could yield 1.2 billion rands to the GDP through direct and indirect impact, and it could lead to the creation of about 3,200 new jobs and about 0.3 billion rands added to total government revenue through taxes. So that's just a sense, and this is based really on about 1 billion rands spent. 2 billion rands, you multiply that by 2, and the numbers will speak for themselves. So this is really the return on investment in terms of exploration. Quickly, a look at why has South Africa's exploration activity declined. And these issues we got from several studies, including the Fraser Survey Institute that comes out every year in March. And these are the top 5 issues that have been raised by investors and potential investors, regulatory and policy matters. And the honorable members would appreciate that we have been hard at work in terms of addressing policy and regulatory uncertainty through the amendments and reviews of our legislation that we've been undertaking. Processes and systems has been raised as a critical issue, and this the department is busy with. Financial and fiscal incentives, this has been raised, and we have continuously been engaging our colleagues at the National Treasury, and honorable members would be aware that we do have uplifts in terms of Section 12J of the Income Tax Act that allows companies to claim back some money against their investment into exploration. And these are some of the fiscal instruments that we continue to work on with the National Treasury to ensure that we make South Africa an attractive destination for investment in exploration. Research and development, over time, there has been an outcry that we've reduced our investment spent in research and development, and that has been taken to heart and actioned. There's quite a lot of work being done through MinTech and CGS and the CSIR insofar as mining technologies are concerned, and the CGS. And lastly, exploration investment, which is something that we are now addressing, and this is part of the work we are presenting to the committee this morning. Just a quick look on the exploration implementation plan that we presented to Cabinet in 2022 with the strategy. The plan sought to respond to these 5 or 6 issues that I've spoken about, with the 6th one being driving public-private partnerships. Insofar as addressing policy matters, last year in July, the department hosted a summit to address, to get stakeholders into one room, and for stakeholders to indicate to us what are the pressure points or what are the areas of concern insofar as the law is concerned. And out of that work, we've started working on the review of the MPRDA to ensure that all those areas that have been raised as areas of concerns are addressed. And as we speak, the draft bill has been submitted to the DPME for SAYA's consideration, and we are processing for state law advisor scrutiny and certification before we can progress the bill and get it out for public comments. But the idea with these amendments is really to respond to these issues that have been raised to us by investors. Processes and systems, currently the department is seized with updating the cadastre. Fiscal terms, I've spoken to that. Research and development, I've spoken to that. There's quite a bit of work being done at CGS and MinTech and the CSIR and other entities as well. Exploration investment, we have initiated the investment by government through this fund, as well as public-private partnerships. There's partnerships that we are looking at as the department within the country as well as outside the country to ensure that we partner with private sector players to drive exploration in South Africa. Further on the response, the fund was established and officially launched on the margins of mining in Indaba early on this year, and this slide just shows that. Overview of the fund. Initial capital into the fund, which is not much in exploration terms, is 400 million rands, contributed into on a 50-50 basis by DMRE and the IDC, and this is really initial capital. And the first funding call, which we issued out in May, was issued for 160 million rands, and it's such that it's non-repayable grants convertible to equity upon discovery. And all that means is that the state has an option to take up some stake in the project once the project reaches success. This is just to ensure that the state can recoup the money back and be able to grow the fund and reinvest in the fund so that we can support more and more projects and grow the mining sector as per the vision behind the fund. Minimum grant, it's between 5 million rands and maximum of about 45 per project. And this was scientifically calculated by the specialist geologists at the CGS, as well as having the right of first refusal to the IDC on follow-up funding. So this is just saying, should we do exploration and the project is good, there's a high rate of success, there is that first right of refusal when it comes to dilution, so that again we protect the initial investment that the state has put into the project. I will not get into detail about this. We looked at definitions because we were asked questions when we were doing public consultations on the fund. We were asked, how do you define a junior miner? And we had to look at what the Companies Act says, look at value, and then we had to put certain criteria. For example, being in possession of a valid prospecting right issued by the department, as well as having indirect or direct ownership and having voting rights in the entity. And those were part of the qualifying criteria that we had to come up with. And this slide, honorable members, shows how the structure and how the fund is managed. The fund is managed by the IDC, which is a financial institution. In terms of the grant funding approval committee, the agreement between IDC, DMRE, and the CGS states that it will be chaired either between IDC and a DMRE representative, and this committee is chaired by my colleague Didi Jikegana, and representation in the committee is 3 members of DMRE and 3 members of IDC. There's a reason why CGS does not sit here, and we will explain on the next slide. The steering committee, which is a committee that oversees the process, that just makes sure things are done on time, what we've committed to do, we do at that time. If we say we will issue a funding call end of the month, this committee oversees that. Sitting of meetings, facilitating meetings, is a steering committee, again chaired by myself as a DMRE official, and then there's a DMRE official on the committee, Mr. Siaheng, and then there is a CGS official, which is the CEO of the CGS, and then 2 IDC representatives who are one technical, the other one is financial, and those are the people who guide us in terms of processes and taking investment decisions. So, but below this steering committee, where I see that we are missing a slide, below the steering committee there is a technical committee. So the technical committee comprises of 1 official from the DMRE and two officials from the CGS and 2 officials from IDC. And that technical committee is the one that does the evaluations. They look at the project, does it meet the basic criteria? Then CGS colleagues then look at the technicalities. If somebody says they've applied for coal here on farm X, they go into their geological database, they check if indeed there is occurrence of coal on farm X. Then they go into further detail and look into whether the quality of coal, is there any exploration that was done there previously. They look through their data and then they advise the grant funding committee in terms of technical viability of the project or the potential behind the project based on technical viability. I can't see this. The font is too small on this slide. I will try. And this just explains the process at a high level. So we start with the funding call, which gets approved by the steering committee to say, let's issue a funding call, and this was done in May. And the advert and the media plan were issued, and call for applications was issued, and then we received applications, and then there was a recording and first screening, which is done by the IDC. Colleagues at IDC, they have a team that does that. Firstly, they look at completeness, basic completeness. Do you meet the basic criteria? And then the next stage is basic assessment, which is done by the technical committee. And then there's due diligence, which is opportunity vetting, and that's where the CGS technical team comes in. They then sit and look at all the technical details. If someone had said in their prospecting work program, they will drill 10 holes, and this is the potential, they do all that technical assessment. And then it goes to investment decision, but before it gets into the adjudication by the investment committee, there's a team, a financial team at IDC that does further due diligence, but this is now more financial compliance. They look at, is your tax clearance in order? Do you pay your taxes? they look at FICA, they look at all the financial risks that financial institutions look at. And then they then recommend to the grant funding committee to say this application meets the criteria and there are no adverse findings in terms of FICA compliance and tax and all of that. And then the funding committee would adjudicate and approve. So where we are now with the first funding call is where there is that yellow triangle, where IDC is busy with the applications that have been adjudicated thus far. I will talk to the number. Quickly, high-level overview of the funding call. These were the requirements that we had put out. More than, it's 50+1, black-owned, South African registered company in possession of a valid prospecting right, starting up or expanding in terms of exploration. And the projects must be in South Africa, and we got a lot of these questions. Actually, we even got one application which was in Namibia, and we had to respond to say this is limited to South Africa. And CGS will guide us on this, and they said to us we must look at potential for 5 and upwards life of mine, so that this would allow us to have some return on investment. They look at economic viability as well and target minerals, and this is what I was explaining with the work that gets done by the CGS team. And lastly, on this slide, the target minerals for the first funding call was copper, nickel, graphite, lithium, and rare earth elements. Again, we had to sit as the steering committee and say, when we issue the funding call, which minerals do we select? We can select any, but we had to limit it to some. And again, here we took guidance from colleagues within the CGS to say, we look at what is the potential for new minerals. South Africa has been known largely for gold and diamonds, and those are in decline. Other minerals which are now more in demand are less explored in the country. So we took guidance to say, let's focus on those. And then they prepared a document that guided the decision. So these are the targeted minerals that were agreed on as the committee. Pictorial view of what went out with the funding call. We were basically explaining what we are calling for and what is the size of the fund, or as we have it today, and which to the right, which mineral commodities we are, I'm trying to get a pointer, we are calling for here. Graphite, copper, nickel, lithium, rare earths, and these are the requirements in the 5 years that I was spoken to. This is what we advertised. We also put on our website and the IDC website these requirements, and this is what we published, if you know, on our social media platforms that prospective applicants had to follow. Now, competitive features for successful applications, what do we look for? We look for geology, and this is where CGS, the specialists at CGS look at. They also look at the exploration plan, and the exploration plan is basically the prospecting work program that the applicants would have submitted to the DMRE when applying for their prospecting right. They also look at exploration costs, because they know as geologists what it takes to drill and do full exploration per commodity. Is it realistic versus value of money that is being proposed? If somebody says, I'm applying for 10 million rands, CGS would look at the technical documents and tell us, do the two speak to each other? And then we also look at the management team relevant experience, qualifications, do they even know what they are doing? All that is considered, and then transformation imperatives are looked at. Women participation, women ownership, youth ownership is also considered in the adjudication. And this slide presents a summary of the applications that we received. So we received a total of 114 applications to the tune of 3.7 billion rands in total. And after the initial screening, which is done by IDC, they screened down to 82, and then further screening they did to 46, with basic due diligence being undertaken by CGS to 46, and then from the 46, drilled down, scaled down to a total of 8. And this was informed by the detailed geological assessment done by the Council for Geoscience, plus the financial, which is FICA, tax, which is done by IDC. So those combined then filtered down from the 46 to 8. And of the 8, 6 have been approved by the Grant Funding Approval Committee, and they are finalizing the 2 remaining next week. The committee is going to sit next week to finalize the 2. What they are doing this week, IDC is doing due diligence on the 2 because they check, they have to check in detail in terms of the FICA requirements. I think another important aspect to highlight is in the criteria, when we're setting the criteria, we also had to look at geographic spread to say projects from all different provinces in the country, what is the potential across the country geographically? And those yellow dots indicate where these projects are located. Northern Cape, Northwest, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. And these are the projects that we have awarded. Progress to date, this is where we are. Currently, IDC is finalizing the 2 that are remaining in terms of due diligence, and then they've initiated the legal contracting process with the 6 that are successful, and then we will proceed with implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. And then we plan to issue the second funding call for an amount of 240 million rands before the end of the financial year, so that we start adjudication in the first quarter of the year 25-26. This slide at a high level talks to what we are looking at as the department in terms of where does the bulk of the exploration budget go, firstly, but where does the bulk of exploration investment come from? And these are the jurisdictions we are looking at in terms of moving forward, looking at growing the fund and the possibilities and the potential of growing the fund from other jurisdictions. In conclusion, we plan to grow the fund through various options and instruments considerations focused on domestic and international investment drives, industry partnerships. Domestically, we've started engaging the Minerals Council just to explore possibilities of the sector partnering with us in whatever way they can to support this program, but also partnering with DFIs going forward to ensure that we are able to grow the fund and reach the intended goal with the fund. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Minister.
That is it, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and Jean Zimande. Honorable members, that's the first presentation. Can I have any take? And before I take honorable members, we learn every day, Jean Zimande. Numerically, what are we saying when we say 0.3 billion rand? I lost you there. Why are we not saying 3 billion? What is 0.3 billion? Please explain that in the context of the overall GDP that you are talking about here. The second point I want to make, Minister, is that on the target minerals that you are funding, and I'm raising this because we know, Minister, the financial institutions no longer fund coal. Where do we expect that junior miners will get exploration fund from if we don't assist them as a state and financial institutions are not assisting? Shouldn't we put coal as well in that targeted minerals on the basis of that situation where it's no longer funded by financial institutions. Honorable Lorima, Honorable Zungula, Honorable Tangwini, and Honorable Senne. Honorable Slepe will be the last, in that order.
Thanks, Chair. The first one is just about the 6 projects selected so far. I'd be interested to know how many of them are brand new exploration companies and how many have a track record of successful exploration already. The second question is a more high-level one. Make the point that if you restrict the market, which I believe we have done, you end up having to have government fund this kind of initiative. And following on from that, there was an attempt to mirror more or less what the Canadian flow-throughs have done with a 12J, which didn't seem to be very successful when it came to mining. Is there an intention to try again with something similar to the flow-through option? Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I think I want to commend the work that has been done. When I'm looking at the BE status of all of the successful applicants, I think it speaks to what we need when it comes to getting more black people active, especially in these sectors whereby they were previously barred from participating in. The only question I have is the kind of support the department is going to provide to ensure that there's no funding, and because there's lack of support, lack of access to markets, you find that there's no sustainability of these of the projects that are run by these applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to you, members and the department. I just have maybe perhaps 2 or 3 questions. On slide 1 on the background and context, I just would like to find out if we can get the beneficiary list of all of that applicants, if we can get that, and how many are women-owned out of those that were approved. And then just on slide 2, in terms of the investment versus the job creation, has there been any research done in terms of the environmental impacts as well in these communities where exploration will be done? Because it's good to say that for 1 billion rand invested, over 3,000 jobs will be created, but we don't ensure that the environment and the communities within those areas are not at risk in terms of this exploration that is done. So have we done, the department done some form of research as well to check what is the environmental impacts of that within the community, and the, say for instance, if as my colleague have asked, is there any monitoring and evaluation gonna be happening to those individuals that will be getting the fund, to say to it that they don't just get the money and then there's no market for whatever they are exploring, or there's no continuous assistance from the department in this industry and ensuring that they are supporting. But I really like to because the minister have indicated that you want to increase your exploration, but we must also vis-a-vis the environmental aspects that this exploration can have within the small communities where those 6 applicants will be exploring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning, Minister and everyone. According to Stats SA, the unemployment rate in South Africa, it's not satisfactory, especially in the Northwest, where I'm coming from. It still remains the highest. So what I want to know is that what is it? What is economic impact of this decline that you were talking about in South Africa's GDP, unemployment rate, and also regional development? So I'm interested to know the impact that the decline has. And number 2, on the applications, how do you ensure that the application process reaches our most disadvantaged communities in all the mining towns? Do you have any awareness campaigns? Because I saw a list of requirements that are needed in terms of the application. A person who comes from your Madibe area in the Northwest Province, how do you reach those people in terms of educating them on how to make an application for that particular, And then, okay, number 3, I think I'm sorted, Chair. I'm happy that you are working or liaising with our international communities, because I was also interested to know the examples of other countries that you, as South Africa, we can go and draw, lessons from. So, but I think this one you have touched on it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to the Minister, DG, my colleagues. No, thanks to though I came so late, I will get the crumbs of the presentation. I came very late, but the question is just one question that is based on the competitive features for successful application. Mine was to check whether the transformation that the successful application is reflecting, is it not possible that we can also indicate that maybe the successful application in that manner, we can include your SLP so that whomsoever is applying, the SLP should form part of that, because it's one thing that is also going to do the transformation for that particular communities, that whomsoever is applying, then it will address the issues of the SLP. And then I am checking with the current and existing operations with the department. Do you perhaps do the monitoring or evaluation whether they do comply with what you just tabled here as a transformation? Because some of the things is looking so good in papers, but in reality is not applicable. I'm checking whether the department, it does do the follow-up of whether the companies indeed they do what they promised that they would do. I want to check that. Thank you, Chair.
Maybe the last point before you answer the questions. Minister, we are saying on a global scale we have decreased in terms of exploration expenditure share from 5% to 1%. We decreased. Hence the development of an exploration strategy and implementation plan, which identified the need for the exploration fund, we're benchmarking ourselves at a global scale. That's why we're saying global expenditure share dropped from 5 to 1. But when we come to identifying beneficiaries and where they must do exploration, we confine them to South Africa. Are we serious about where we want to be with this strategy? Because I would assume that you have done that because you are a player. South Africa was a player at a global scale. Otherwise, you are going to tell us we have dropped from 5% to 1 in South Africa, not global. There's a reason why you are weighing us from there. You are benchmarking from there. Are you not limiting South Africa to go back to 5% exploration expenditure share where it was before? To me, there's a contradiction, unless you are saying we are starting with South Africans to do South Africa, and then at a later stage we will do other nations. Make it make sense to me. It doesn't make sense as it is now. Thank you.
Go first. I will allow the deputy to go first. I will come.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Let me start with the questions that were raised by the Chair. On the 0.3 billion rands, it's 300 million rands. The only reason we put it like that is just consistency on the slide. 1.2 billion contribution to the GDP. No other reason. Apologies for that, Chair. And then the question on why are we not funding coal? Because other institutions are not funding coal. First we were limited by the size of the fund. Let me say that, Chair. You would have seen on the earlier slides that the applications we received came to about over 3 billion rands worth of funding that they were asking for, and we only have 400 billion. So we had to come up with a criteria and really say which are the minerals that are in demand, that have a potential to contribute greatly to the GDP, have a potential to contribute to other imperatives like just energy transition, minerals that are in demand but underexplored in the country. And then we focused on those. A decision was made based on that assessment. And then the last question by the Chair in terms of confining this only to South Africa. So when we say global exploration spend, it's studies that are done to look at globally which countries received the most money for exploration. And we sit where we sit at the bottom quartile. It's not about where you go and invest. It's about money. If there was $10 billion in a global pot from different investment destinations, where did that money go? How was that cake sliced? And we're saying only 1% of the slice comes to us. So to increase that slice being higher to us as a country, because we want to explore here, so that there are discoveries here, so that there are new mines here, so that we create jobs here in South Africa. So hence the focus is internally like that. Honorable Lorima, on the question about how many of the successful companies have a track record in exploration, we can find out. We don't have access to these records because there is a committee and that data sits at the IDC. We could request a summary from our colleagues at IDC, and then we can submit that in writing to the committee. On the flow-through shares, yes, we are in conversation with our colleagues at National Treasury to really work. My colleague, Mr. Siacheng, is working on this, driving this, because it's also one feature that makes us attractive for investment. So we are working on it. Honorable Zungula, on the support to be provided, firstly, the service providers who will do the exploration will be appointed by the IDC. And those service providers, some of them they have on their database, they've been working with them as they do have exposure to mining projects. And they have a mining unit within IDC that looks at their exposure, anyway, look at their projects. So they will continue doing monitoring in partnership with the Council for Geoscience, because at every stage of the exploration, the Council for Geoscience will be doing the technical evaluations. But we've also put conditions there as we do contracting with the successful applicants to say all the data will go to the CGS. When they drill, the core will be moved from site to the library at the CGS. Analysis of the samples will be done at our laboratory in the CGS, so that the state keeps the data and the state is able to provide the necessary support informed by science, informed by technical data. So there will be that continuous support. And then the question, I think it was raised by Honorable Ntangula on how women ownership. If you look at those blogs there, we do say in the presentation which ones, and youth participation or youth ownership. And then environmental impacts. So when companies apply for exploration rights or prospecting permits, one of the requirements is that they apply for an environmental authorization. So by the time they come to us, to the fund, to apply for funding, they already have those things in place and they have paid their financial guarantees for rehabilitation. But let me also say this. Exploration in terms of an environmental footprint is very limited because you are not mining, you are exploring. A large chunk of it is non-invasive initially, like electromagnetic surveys. It's non-invasive as in there's no disturbance of the land. And once they start disturbing the land, the cores, when they drill, it's like a hole this thick. And they pull out the core and then they plug it. So there isn't much at this stage, not unless they do bulk sampling, which also has to be approved by the department before they do it. And then, Honorable Sine, on the economic impact, we can look at we can ask our stats colleagues to give us the figures. We don't have the figures offhand, but all I can say here is, obviously when there's a decline in investment, there will be a negative impact on that local economy, but in terms of the actual numbers, we can provide that. And then adverts reaching communities. We tried to advertise on all social media platforms. We had public engagements which were virtual, which were well attended. We had about 2 of them, and we will continue to improve going forward and make sure that we reach out to municipalities as well for them to circulate the adverts. And then the last one, Chair, I think it was from Honorable Silepe, on the inclusion of the SLPs in the qualification criteria. We cannot include SLP because for a prospecting right, SLP is not a requirement. So SLP only kicks in with the mining right. So at exploration, not yet. And then does the department look at compliance? Yes, the department does look at the compliance insofar as the ownership is concerned. Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. The funding for coal. That's quite interesting. Coal is a late commodity when it comes to employment. It employs a number of workers that is only second to the platinum sector, platinum group metals only. So it's leading. At this point in time, it is doing well. Signs of lack of funding are not clear yet. We had discussion with a lot of financial institutions in South Africa. Very few have taken a decision not to fund coal. That's why. commercial execution. They have not taken that decision. It's a threat that is on the horizon. Number two, because we saw that threat coming, Africa is establishing what is called the Africa Energy Bank. It works with AfriEx Bank. And when we talk to them, and we want to be members there, because the money is not big that we must pay. It's $83.33 billion. That's not a huge amount to be a member. And they say their target is that they want to continue funding both petroleum and coal mining. Those are rejected generally, but needed for the developing economies. So we're looking into all those options in terms of funding coal. Of the 6, how many are new? Any experience? I would imagine that all of them are new. I'm not part of the panel, but the target cannot be to experienced companies. The target should be on emerging companies that want to establish themselves and grow. Hence the support. Earlier I made the point that assessment is normally looking at listed companies. For example, CGS is having a big fight with Anglo American, which did a lot of exploration, but kept their data as theirs, and not handed it over to the CGS. That engagement continues because it is that data that is assessed, not everything that is done in CGS. That's the point we're making. So our view is that it's like when you measure unemployment, Honorable Chairperson. Let me give you that as an example. In South Africa, we don't do a measure of informal businesses. People in informal business, by and large, are regarded as unemployed. And I think other countries do measure everybody who is working. And therefore, employment statistics get distorted when you don't measure informal trade and informal business. And that is our situation. But it's not worth taking it up now until Statistician General appreciate the importance of assessing that area of work as well. So, we don't want to give money to experienced explorers. I want to give it to new emerging explorers so that we develop the base. And that goes to the question you raised, why do we limit it to South Africa? It's because the percentage that is measured is not a contribution of South African companies. It's money spent in South Africa. When Anglo Gold leaves us and do exploration in Africa, they're working in Mali, they're working in a number of countries up north. The exploration fund is spent in those countries. It's not us. It's those countries. That's why we are restricting it to South Africa. Because we want to increase the spend in South Africa, not general by South African companies. It is spent in South Africa. That's the focus. That's why we're restricting it. I was telling people yesterday that it's Anglo-American. 2 years after the Nationalist Party took power, they started the Free State coalfields, booming coalfields. 2 years after the ANC took over power, left the Free State coalfields, closed it. 1950 they started, 1996 they left. Ultimately today they are not in South Africa at all. So we can't measure the performance of companies that were formed in South Africa if they are not here. We measure here. That's what we do. The BE criteria, maybe let's explain what exploration is. Because once you talk exploration and you talk markets, you are actually putting a cart before the horse. Because exploration basically is the checking of the behavior of rocks. the quality and quantity of deposits. That's all you do. That's why even in the MPRDA, there's no requirement for PEE compliance for exploration. There's no need for that. Because you generate no value, you are still looking for quality and quantity of the deposit. So, there's no market until you discover that quantity and quantity. You can only talk of market when your exploration translates into mining. Then you can start talking about markets. Now, when you do exploration, there can be no market. You are looking for the quantity and quality of the deposit. That's all. And if you look into what are these commodities that we have selected, you will see that they are focusing on what is called critical minerals, or minerals of the future, which are rare and still small in scale. Not gold, not coal, not PGMs. Those are done by major companies. For example, De Beers is doing a major exploration in Venetia. You don't need to find that. De Beers does it. Anglo Platinum is doing a lot around Mkhalakwena and all that area. They work with Ivanhoe right into the combination of Ivanhoe and platinum, Anglo Platinum. That area is explored by them. You don't need to find small junior miners to do it. So that is where we are on that. A list of beneficiaries. I know that we can be forced in terms of the information access law, but my instinct is that we should not publish that list. Let me tell you why we should not. You know, one of the most unfortunate things that we come across is that when you do constructive work, political parties use that constructive work for campaigning. Okay, we give you the list of beneficiaries. I can tell you that before the end of this week, we will have visited all of them and tell them all sorts of things and what they should demand and what they should do and so forth. I don't think it is in the interest of exploration to give the list to you, as political parties. Okay, let them discover minerals, and once there is a mine established, I can say you're shaking your head, but you do these things. I can give you an example, a living example. We're working on the Lily mine situation ourselves. We're not present for anything. Action SA goes all the way and makes it as if it's their project, but they're not there. They're just misleading families. We are forcing companies to drill an incline shaft there to reach those bodies. Now, so sometimes when political parties have access to information, they abuse it for campaigning. And I'm sure you'll need it that more after you've expelled those. You'll need that more. Okay. The economic impact of decline, if you have a decline in exploration, you will see a decline in coming of new mines into the pipeline. So that is an impact on employment in that way. At this point in time, there are two PGM projects that are coming into the stream. There are two coal mines that are coming to the stream. That is low in South African time. And therefore, if that is low, the employment will not grow at a pace that we expect it to. That's the impact of the decline. You don't invest in exploration, you will not see new mines coming to the stream. You invest in exploration, there will be new mines coming to the stream. That's why yesterday when CAPM was opening a gold processing plant, we went there to have a discussion with them. They opened that gold plant. They are refurbishing an old gold plant, but it will employ more than about 1,000 people. Okay, so we assess that and we look into it, and it is a contribution to employment creation. So if you don't have exploration, you slow down on creation of employment. You invest more on exploration, you see more money coming to the stream, and employment picks up. How does it reach disadvantaged communities? That is not the primary intention. The primary intention is to have people who will do exploration and discover minerals. Maybe disadvantaged communities can participate when mining starts. What are you going to do with disadvantaged communities for exploration? You spend money there, and sometimes you get nothing. Okay, you spend money, you get nothing. You come out empty-handed, having done exploration, having spent a lot of money, and you get nothing. So it is not in the interest of the country to take disadvantaged communities and involve them in exploration, because there is no value until there's a discovery. I think Titi Sintakozo and Zumande has explained that in the rest lab. You want SLPs for exploration. In exploration, you spend money, you don't make money. Okay? You front load capital expenditure. You'll benefit further down the line when the mine is opened. So leave the SLP for exploration. That's it.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and the team. I can see there are follow-ups. Honorable Tangwini, Honorable Sleper.
Thank you very much, Chair. I don't agree with the Minister in not wanting to give us the beneficiary list. And I don't agree with him in not publishing this list in terms of his analysis of what political parties are going to do. If we want to have transparency and have to have oversight over this fund, we ought to know as the committee who are these beneficiaries that will be getting this money. Because to just simply say, no, you're not going to let us, you're not going to give us the names of the 6 beneficiaries is simply not going to cut it, because we need to do actively oversight as to that this money that are being given to these 6 applicants are being spent for the need that it's being given to them, and there's active transparency, because how do we do oversight over a fund and we don't know to whom did the money go? For all we know, all of these 6 people could have been family members of you, Minister. So we need to, I really don't agree, Chair, we need to have active oversight, and only if we are transparent with information, we can do that as a committee. But if we're just going to say, no, we can't, and we allow that type of behavior, tomorrow when we request the department to give us certain information, they're also just going to say, no, we can't give you those information. It's confidential. It can't be allowed. It's either with, maybe perhaps, like they're doing in the Intelligence Committee, but we need to know who are the 6 applicants as this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think I was sharing the same sentiment with Honorable Tlangweni, but on top of that, Minister, you've just made mention of Anglo, that there was the exploration information that they kept with them for a very long time, that they don't want to submit it to the CGS. And then I think the very same thing with this unknown 6 applicants. It might also happen, because if we don't know who to hold accountable, it's going to be a problem with us. And then I'm checking, why should the department fail to hold this Anglo accountable? What is it that's protecting Anglo to issue the exploration for the country to the relevant department? What is it that makes them so brave for not complying with the department? And then there's something that is not right with this Anglo thing. Maybe we should know, we need to know more or better about them. I think if they can't maybe be invited in this committee so that we might have an opportunity of asking them ourselves as the committee, because we cannot have people that are bullying the whole country and people who that took the mineral of the South Africans without like letting. If you can check the strategic minerals in the country, you only found Anglo in every corner of the country because of their advantage of this data that they collected during the apartheid era system. I don't know whether those laws are still protecting them even now, while we are in a democracy, but they're still being protected by the apartheid laws. Please, Minister, do something about that thing of Anglo, not on the issue that the database. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable Minister.
Anyway, I'm not in the panel selecting the exploration companies. I'm just expressing a view that there is a risk in publishing that list. That's all I'm saying. And if parties insist, we'll pass it to the selection panel. They will talk about it. But the reality of the matter, Honorable Tlangweni, is that as political activists for different parties, our behavior determines the relationship. Okay? Our behavior determines the relationship. If people are regarded as responsible, they are given information, they abuse that information, it changes the approach into how you see them. Simple as that. But the panel will decide on that, not me. Yeah, not me. But I'm making the point, when we get information, we have a responsibility to protect it, ourselves, and use it appropriately. Do oversights, okay? But once you start using information that you get in a portfolio committee for campaigning, something is wrong. That's why we don't give this information even to the ANC, which we belong to. Because if we give it to the ANC, here they are. We don't go and whisper information to them. Because if you begin to make information loosely available, you create a responsibility. That's all we're saying. If we are going to be responsible with information, there's nothing that stops us from getting the information. But there's a responsibility that goes with that access to the information, protecting that information, not abuse it. Anglo. Oslep, can I give you a little bit of information about mining? Up to recently, mining was really dominated by 7 companies. Not only Anglo. Anglo, Rand Mines, Anglo-Fal, JCI, you can list them, but there are 7. And many of those companies do not exist today. Anglo does exist. Rand Mines does not exist. Anglo-Fal does not exist. Mineral and Petroleum Resources pulled out of it. Part of it is Patrice and a part is somewhere else and so forth. Anglo did exploration those days when there were these major companies that were doing exploration. That's why you see demarcation of the mines based on the ownership of those old companies. And that information in terms of the laws then didn't need to go to the CGS. CGS did geological mapping on its own. They are busy doing that, and they are engaging Anglo about that information. What I don't know whether it is possible to force Anglo to give that information. They did exploration, they spent their money, and therefore they see that as part of the assets of the company. I don't know if you can just go and grab them. That's why CGS is engaging them properly and not grabbing that information. I don't think we should try to grab that information. You know, Honorable Chairperson, I was talking to one person in Limpopo who said there are these depots that are in Samango. Take them away from Samango, give them to us. I had to go back and say, there was a process of converting old order rights to new order rights. That is a legal process. So I can't just walk to someone and say, I'm taking this right, I'm giving it to this, because the license for this person is that he is black. I can't do that, it's illegal. So in this area, there are quite a number of issues that must be treated carefully in this sector, and we have the responsibility to do so. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Chair. Minister. He's the national chair of my party, so I get confused at some point. No, I think I understand where Honorable Ntangwini comes from and where the minister comes from. We have had in the past, Minister, a situation where when you allow ministers not giving information, you end up being told that you must sign a non-disclosure agreement to get information as a portfolio committee, and we don't want that now in this committee. But maybe you are right, you don't give to a political party such information, but you give to the public. And I think the practice that DMRE has been doing can still be done in DMPR of publishing whatever the process was and the names of the companies that were given. It happened in the bid windows. You were transparent. You would say bid window 5, these are the companies that were selected, this was the process, so that we are transparent, not necessarily giving it to a political party. And I think because you have finalized 6, and there's 2 that you are going to be finalizing. After that process, issue a statement or something that outlines what the process was and who the beneficiaries are. I don't think that process would harm anyone. I think that mitigates the true views from Honorable Ntangwini and Honorable Minister. Just publish at the time convenient. There's nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much, Honorable Members. Can we go to the second presentation, Minister?
I wish you can have access on harassment on bid windows, but I'm not going to do that now. I wish we have access to that. All we're appealing for is that information is very important, but it goes with responsibility. That's all we're saying. Giving information goes with responsibility of protecting that information. That's all we're saying. On the small scale and artisanal mines, it's an issue that we're starting doing. It is chisel and hammer mining. Okay, chisel and hammer mining. It is a response to marginal deposits left behind by major companies. That's why if you look at how the companies do it, Anglo mines, they pull out, Harmony gets, and they work for years there. They pull out, smaller companies move in, and artisanal miners must look into those marginal deposits that are sterilized by major companies. People who are from Mpumalanga, I don't know if there's any here, because Lebe can't be from Mpumalanga, but if there's anybody from Mpumalanga, you will know that Anglo left Anode as a dead deposit. We set up a structure of workers mining that structure, and we gave them 50% shareholding, and we asked another company, which I won't mention here, is in trouble, to partner with them, provide the machinery and the capital, and they went 50-50 on it. Anode is producing up to today. So All we're saying is that artisanal miners and small-scale miners are very important to ensure that we don't leave marginal deposit behind because of the cost structure of a major company. And we're investing in this. We're hoping it grows. When we're discussing this morning with the team, I said to them, actually these two presentations must go to cabinet so that we start asking cabinet to actually provide resources for these initiatives so that they don't die, we continue growing them. They give us resources, we can ask for other contributions, but the state must be seen to be committed to this initiative. But I will hand over to the DG for that second presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The presentation will be delivered by DDG Kakana, and the focus of the presentation will be to take the members first through the sector policy framework that we apply in the space, the initiatives, the various initiatives that the department is undertaking in the space, and also share with the members the update on the process that we have been undertaking in terms of providing financial support to artisanal miners. Over to you.
Thank you, DG. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members. Good morning. I'll just take you through the table of contents comprising of only 5 topics or chapters. I think in terms of introduction, the Minister has said it. I think I must actually still have his IP. Artisanal and small-scale mining simply refers to mining operations conducted by individuals and mainly groups, and those groups are mainly in the form of cooperatives with no machines. I call it pick and shovel. Also, although the Minister make references of chisel and hammer, which is correct. As South Africans, we do have a very long history of artisanal and small-scale mining that goes back many, many years ago. Common commodities within the sector, Minister mentioned coal mining, gemstones, gold, limestone, and even simple river sand that we use on a daily basis, aggregates that you are found in construction companies, alluvial diamonds, and to a larger extent, there's a lot of chrome mining and platinum mining. And you'll see this mainly in Limpopo, my home province, as well as Northwest. And estimated number of existing artisanal and small-scale mining, it's between 30 and 50,000. And I must declare that this is not an official number, because we know most of them are operating illegally, but this is sourced from various publications. The sector, yes, it has a high potential for employment creation, and also very high potential to contribute meaningfully to the GP, provided that it is well documented and regulated. And lastly, obviously, it has a potential to alleviate poverty. Once more, the sector is mainly informal, very labor intensive, and attract, unfortunately, the hot topic of today, illegal mining. The sector currently, we feel that it's not adequately monitored, and we hope that over time, with the interventions that I'm going to share with you, you'll start seeing that the department is doing something about it. And lastly, yes, indeed, there's law enforcement behind the sector. It is regulated through Section 27 of the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act, or the MPRDA. The department is working tirelessly hard on mechanisms to ensure that adequate monitoring and compliance are in place. In the policy front, members, in 2022, just after COVID, the department gazetted artisanal and small-scale mining policy. I think I always use this simple example. The sector on its own is facing various challenges, but most importantly, the challenge that it's facing is to have an identity. We know in South Africa, when we define SMMEs, small, medium, and micro-scale enterprise. We know who they are. They get defined or they have certain characteristics from number of employment, the turnovers of the company, the tax that tax regime that they fall under. On the same breath, the artisanal small-scale mining need that type of a recognition. They need distinction from your normal junior junior miners, as well as large-scale mining. So with the creation of this policy, we have put concepts that will try to give identity to this emerging and the most important industry in our country. The objectives of the policy is to create a basis for formulating a dedicated legal framework, of which is guided by, obviously, the MPRDA. We would like to contribute towards job creation, meaningful economic contribution, and again, poverty alleviation. With the policy in place, its objective also wants to promote optimal and orderly exploitation of mineral resources for the benefit of all South Africans. We want to develop mechanisms to formalize the sector's operation, as such that we can bring them into the mainstream economy and we start seeing their contribution. One of also the most important factors, and we've seen it even in the previous discussions, the promotion of health and safety and sound environmental management practices are very paramount. What concepts does the policy try to address? As I've said, we're trying to bring identity to this important sector. We want, if I were to say it again, a clear distinction between artisanal and small-scale mining from junior mining operators, as well as large-scale mining. Such concepts that we've been working on, which, yes, indeed, will want this concept to find their way towards law, meaning within the MPRDA. We will want a situation whereby a small-scale mining permit holder does not have to go through the same cumbersome processes that are associated with your normal mining permit. We'll want to have a situation whereby the permit holder, their obligations are unique and are less cumbersome. They're not as costly as your normal application processes. The Minister has mentioned the thoughts that we are having behind having designated locations in areas where we find marginal deposits that have been left sterile by your normal large-scale mining operations. So we want to target such as operations, regulate, and have a designated area whereby our small-scale miners can mine freely, and with the support that the department is trying to put in place. With all that said, we're saying even with the current process, we're currently going through the review process of the MPRDA, we will extract some of those new concepts that talks to artisanal small-scale mining and try to address some within the amended MPRDA. Just lastly, from the administration point of view, we know that the mining industry and the obligations and in terms of compliance and everything, it's a cumbersome process. So for small-scale mining, with a special dispensation, we want to lessen that burden to the players, because mainly the players, from financial perspective, they can't afford some of these obligations that we normally attach with the licensing or the permits. For example, even the appointment of which is a requirement, a consultant, an environmental consultant. Our communities, they can't afford that. So some of the interventions that the department is putting is towards affordability as well. We want practical license categories concerning security of tenure, of which is something that the MPRDA review process is going to also try to address. We want a very simple, user-friendly licensing criteria process or applications, as well as the management of such a permit. And I think my colleague earlier on mentioned the introduction of the cadastral system. We hope that with the introduction of cadastral system, from application point of view, we want to have a situation whereby on the palm of your hand, on a phone, smartphone, one can simply log in, put in their application, and within few days, not months, few days, they can get that type of application can be processed, but with a designated approach that we're trying to put in place. From small-scale mining point of view, such a process, we really want to make it as simple as possible. Challenges facing the industry, they are so common to SMMEs. I think we've gone through an era where we know the potential of SMMEs in South Africa from job creation point of view. The sector is facing the same challenges, but here they're even complex, because now we're talking about mining operations that are hazardous, that has environmental implications. So with the emergence of illegal mining activities linked to artisanal and small-scale mining, we're seeing that as a very big challenge, and I cannot belabor the point by the recent developments that we've seen in media. One important point that I would like to make: artisanal and small-scale miners are aspirant miners who are keen to be legalized, who need help, who only thing that they want is a helping hand by government and even private sector, so that they can be recognized and operate legally. Key challenges that the sector is facing from compliance point of view: yes, license obligations. Some are very stringent obligations that are accompanied with the licensing. Adherence to health and safety and the environmental laws. We've seen currently what is happening out there. But most critical challenge, most of them, yes, these small-scale miners, they know what to do. They can use their hands, but they still have technical skills, the limitations from technical skills point of view. The financial competence, most of them haven't ran businesses. So as the department, we're trying by all means to also, when I'll cover it, introduce best business management practices. Access to finance, that is a real problem. We've seen it even in the SME sector as a result of, security. They don't have collateral. So as a department, with our financial measures, we're trying to bridge that gap. Access to markets or distribution networks, that's again a very serious problem. But lastly, this sector it's facing all this backlog or wrong perceptions. We do have legal artisanal small-scale miners out there that are ready to contribute to the economy, but they are painted with this dark cloud or this bad picture being associated with the illegal operations. So with our awareness programs, roadshows that we're trying to do, we're trying to very hard to address that. The opportunities and the initiatives that the department is doing so far, we have a dedicated small-scale mining directorate, and through that directorate, there are two important support programs that we've developed and implemented. We offer non-financial support through our regional offices. What does non-financial support mean? I think members, the type of communities we're talking about, they really need that hand-holding as compared to junior miners. We assist our prospective or aspirant miners with pure, simple application, how to apply for a permit. We also educate them with regards to the obligations that are associated with the permit. We offer technical training and awareness workshops. In this technical training, we have developed a tailor-made program together with MQA and our sister company, Mintech. And through that program, what do we address? We address the whole value chain from mining operations, business management, and also pure environmental laws are covered through the training. I'm happy to also provide feedback that in the last year or so, we have managed to train over 200 women throughout the country. They have received their entry-level certificates through MQA. Now the next step now is to promote those graduates, I'll call them graduates, promote them and introduce them into these other various programs. And one that comes to mind, obviously, is it's for them to be able to participate in the fund, in the small-scale mining fund, and over time promote them even further to participate in the likes of junior mining exploration as time goes and as they increase their experiences. Key support that we're also offering, financial support. We offer financial support through the establishment of the small-scale mining fund together in collaboration with the IDC, and funding goes towards purely three categories: procurement or purchasing of capital equipment. Some of the funding will go towards working capital, and lastly, which is a permit obligation, the fund will also assist to provide rehabilitation guarantees. I know this is a little bit of a busy slide. Some of the initiatives that we've been conducting as the department, if you look at the far left corner talks about traditional leaders. We've been conducting throughout the country a series of awareness campaigns and workshops throughout mainly rural areas within the country, but where normally we'll find all these mining activities that are operating. We're trying to educate our traditional leaders with respect to their big role that they have to play within this greater scheme of things. We're doing this together with our compliance and enforcement team. Mainly the objective of conducting these workshops or stakeholder engagements is purely from information sharing point of view. We have noticed that in most cases, especially given the locations where these communities are located, access to information to these state members is still a problem. We also aim to empower our traditional leaders about the do's and the don'ts. And what comes to mind, I mean, we know that in terms of the tribal land, in most cases you'll find situations whereby the chiefs will simply, allocate piece of land and allow people to mine freely, but not only to find that, it's actually illegal just to find a pocket of piece of land and just mine. So we with these campaigns, we're providing that awareness that as a department, we're willing to extend a helping hand so that those who are interested in entering the industry, they can follow the proper channels, both the communities or corporates, as well as educating the traditional leaders and ensuring that their involvement is towards solving the current problem. We encourage collaboration between traditional leaders, our communities, local government, cooperatives, and House of Traditional Leaders, both provincially and nationally. The focus on this one mainly, again, is it's mainly on law enforcement, to encourage, to preach against illegal mining, to also encourage promotion of reporting illegal operations that have been experienced within those affected communities. The areas that have been covered so far this year, we're looking at Northern Cape, Limpopo, and Northwest KZN. We're still going to continue to increase our coverage. Looking towards the far right of my slides, we also, through the Office of the Deputy Minister, in fact, one of the Deputy Minister's areas of responsibilities is to, it's in the form of the outreach program that she's running. Within the outreach program, there's a promotion of women and youth in mining. And how we're doing that, we're also doing that through awareness campaigns. We're doing that through the Office of the Deputy Minister, sharing with them all the available opportunities, the training program, how to actually enter the industry, no matter how small you are, no matter your historical background. We also use this community workshop that are driven by the DM to promote their fund. We help aspirant miners with the application processes, the requirements, and this is where we ensure that even our officials on the ground, and we maintain that they have access. I mean, the aspirant miners have access to our officials, because what we have noticed, most of these aspirant miners, some of them, they live in a very far-fetched rural areas. It's not easy for them to travel, especially in the Northern Cape. People travel over 200 kilometers just to access our offices. So we actually bring our offices to them and help them in that regard. We also, through the workshops also provide that opportunity to interact with the DM, but obviously our principal as well, so that we can hear and listen to the concerns and the challenges that are on the ground. Areas that have been covered last year are those that are depicted on the slides in Mpumalanga, and we're on the verge of actually doing more. Common themes that we have seen throughout the engagements: the issue around illegal mining versus our artisanal miners. There's complaints that we are aspirant miners, we want to mine, we only need support, and we do not want to be associated with all this that is happening from a legal point of view. Emphasis on mine health and safety and their implications on illegal mining are always hot topics. The usage of the tribal land for mining operations, we strive to educate our community that you cannot just willingly just pick a pick and a shovel and mine. You need that authorization from the department. Public participation consultation requirements, we encourage that. Yes, social labor plans, as the miners progress, we also do a lot of training and awareness on that. And within all the stakeholders, yes, when we do these engagements, we invite local communities, COCTA, local municipalities, and subs. Talking about the fund has been in existence for quite a while. The fund is governed through the Memorandum of Agreement between the DMRE and the IDC. The fund aims to alleviate challenges faced by the subsector to access commercial funding for startup projects, which are deemed high risk. One will agree with me, even in this country, it's very difficult for even an SMME to raise funding because of the commercial bank requirements, and mainly purely it's from collateral point of view. So with this fund, we're trying to bridge that gap. In the last year's call, we received 114 applications, and it's quite a coincidence that even the Junior Mining Exploration Fund received the same number of interested applications. From 114 applications, unfortunately, with the limited budget and other complexities and the requirements, which are not as cumbersome as the Junior Mining Exploration Fund, we reduced the number to 20 projects. As things stand, the 20 projects have been approved for funding. Currently, we are going through the process of, in fact, we are at the last stage of contracting. We are hoping to now start dispersing the money to the recipient by end of this month. Why this process took a little bit longer? The application ran, the call was open, I think, towards end of January. It closed end of Feb. We adjudicated end of March. Between April and June, as the department, yes, we had to visit over, I think, when we did the first screening, over 50 applicants, and they are spread across the country. So that whole process was a little bit lengthy, not anticipated though. Then subsequent to that, obviously the department will issue a list, which is 20 to the IDC. Then IDC again, it has to undergo or undertake its internal processes, and mainly from IDC point of view, because now we're talking about financial agreements, FICA verifications. While they are doing that, yes, quotations that were received in the past, this is quotations in relation to procurement of equipment, some of them were outdated. So we have learned a lesson that now we had to go back, update the quotations. So this is where we lost a bit of time, but all that has been addressed. So I'm happy to report that by end of November, we should start seeing money flowing into the economy where it belongs. Target market, we're targeting, of course, aspirant black players in the field. The players must have a valid mining permit. And most importantly, we prefer rural communities. The process, as I've mentioned, it is run through and governed through the DMRE process, from issuing of the ad, adjudication, and shortlisting. Then from there, then we, as a department, we hand over the list to the IDC. Then IDC will look at the administration part of it, as well as the implementation, contracting, and post-investment monitoring. One other point I wanted to mention, through IDC's schemes, there is a lot of business support that this comes with, and this is just a general support that IDC does to its clients, similarly within the SMME. So they provide that business support, knowing that most of these miners, they're not really business savvy. The fund itself, it's a grant fund, not a loan, obviously, given the nature of the sector we're talking about. The fund goes towards, I think I've mentioned, capital equipment. It also covers rehabilitation guarantee. And the type of capital equipment one will talk about or expect, it's just mainly small machines because of the nature of the operations. And most of them, mining, this is surface mining. None of them talk to underground mining. Fund beneficiary spread, yes, we also try our level best to cover as much as possible. Currently, we approved 68 million. That's the disbursement amount I mentioned previously. We've seen that Limpopo and Northwest are dominating. We have 6 projects each. And the project, yes, I'm also happy to report that there's 3 women projects that we are supporting, and then within that is also youth. And the commodities are highlighted as per the slides. Unfortunately, we haven't seen much from the Free State and other provinces, but as expected, we know all these hotspots, Limpopo, especially the Beggarsford region, and in the northwest, we know within the Rustenburg belt. Just composition, 70 million of 67 million of the fund will go towards capital procurement of capital equipment, and the balance will go towards rehabilitation guarantees. So as soon as we conclude the disbursement by end of November, we are also now planning to open the new call for the next round, of which we aim to adjudicate before end of financial year. So in conclusion, the department has gazetted the policy in 2022, and now with all these interventions, we're trying to operationalize the policy with the interventions that we're currently making. But further to that, we are also internally looking at the reviewing process of the MPRDA, and we want to also make provisions within the amendment of the MPRDA to a large extent to support the sector accordingly. The department will continue with its efforts to collaborate with all the stakeholders to ensure that compliance and, most importantly, law enforcement are maintained. We will continue with our countrywide awareness and roadshows to address the current crisis that we are facing. The department will also continue to unlock opportunities within the sector through the provision of the much needed funding, as well as non-financial support through training in collaboration with our sister companies. Our goal is to have a sector that has identity, the sector that is adequately regulated and supported, a sector that is inclusive of women, youth, and persons with disability. Chairperson, with that said, I'd like to thank you.
That is it, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Minister and Mr. Kakana. So let's go to the introduction and background quickly. There is a definition there of artisanal and small-scale mining, which says it refers to mining operations conducted by individuals or groups with minimal or no mechanizations. And it reinforces what the minister has said. It's a pick and a shovel kind of a work. Having that definition, let's go to the key policy definitions and new concepts. And then you go there and say, okay, licensing regime and administration. You go there and say you are going to introduce 2 types of permits, which are not the same. You say for artisanal mining permits, you are going to allocate or have a regulation that you can mine only 2 hectares over a 3-year period. And then you say for small scale mining permit, it will be 5 hectares to be mined over 5 years. The definition is the same. It puts these people at the same level. Why are we having different hectares and different years to give a permit. Why are the permits not the same? When we're talking about pick and a shovel person, what would be the difference? What differentiates them for you to arrive at that point where you are giving them different permits? The second issue is that, you see, in the first presentation of junior mining, DDG Nzimande made a point that the 114 applications made did not match the resources available of 400 million. It amounted to 3.2 billion. That's why you had to scale down the numbers. And you explained how you scaled them down. Amongst other things was to look at the resources that you are looking for, which are resources of the future and those that have potential. Now here, applicants are 114. We give only 20. There's no explanation why we arrived at the 20. And if I'm not mistaken, the budget was 127 million, right? And you will correct me. And here you are giving only beneficiaries to the tune of 68 million. If I am correct, there is no bottlenecks in terms of funding. You can go as far as whatever you have. How did we arrive to 20 and not the number equivalent to the budgeted finances, if I'm correct about the number I threw in? Just a bit of what Ms. Mande has said. Explain to us, what are the challenges of these applicants not to be approved? I mean, 114 for pick and shovel not to be approved is quite strange to me. It's not the same with junior mining. So here, don't be sophisticated, small. We are talking to people with a pick and shovel. Remember, be slow and be comprehensive. We want to understand what is happening there, so that people there at home must understand what you're talking about. The last point is that you are saying when you are done with the allocation, disbursement of money, the funding call for 2024-2025 is underway. You try to explain what underway means. But because we are talking to a pick and shovel person, when you make a call, where do you make a call? Is it newspapers? Is it your website? Is it so that this information is not hidden to a pick and shovel person who this is targeted to? Honorable members, can we take questions? Honorable Lorima, Honorable Silepe, Honorable Ntangwini, Honorable Mufukeng, in that order.
Thanks, Chair. This is a project which I really, really want to like, and I have for a long time. But the more I look at it, the more I think it can't fly. I think when you talk about the big problems of environmental effects, the problem of not sterilizing deposits, which could be mined more effectively and more efficiently and to a greater extent by a commercial company, the health and safety aspects. I fear that the numbers don't stack up. So on to some specific questions. Chair has raised the issue of that 68 million rand. Now, if there's 68 million rand across 20 projects, that's 3.4 million rand a project, and these are supposed to be pick and shovel operations, those are very expensive picks and very expensive shovels, or we're talking about expenditure not so much on capital equipment, but on compliance. Now again, I mean, I do think that there is room for a lot less compliance. I mean, I know that as far as a mining permit goes, I'm aware of a case where a young man was trying to get into the business. Typical mining permit, one guy, couple of employees, 5 hectares, but just to get that mining permit cost him over 100,000 rand, which he would not have been able to do unless he had a benefactor, which in this case he did. But that worries me, that it is very, very difficult for anybody wanting to get into the business seriously to get into the business because of compliance. I do like the idea of less onerous regulation, and people have been talking for a long time in the industry about there should be an MPRDA light for smaller mining operations. Sounds good, as long as we can sort out the safety and we can sort out the environment and we can sort out, I mean, the taxation. I don't know if that was mentioned, but are these guys going to end up paying tax? And how do you organize compliance? So I worry that the whole effort to get compliance in all these things is going to be a lot of government help for some very few low-paying jobs. That's the concern. So maybe you can tell me why I'm wrong. So specifically, are you looking only at brownfield deposits or greenfield as well? Are you ruling out underground mining completely? Because if you're not, it seems to me the safety is going to be a huge problem. Is it not the case that the government will just end up subsidizing artisanal mining? And that money could be better spent elsewhere. And so back to the broader philosophical concept again, would it not be a better idea simply to make it easier to be a small-scale miner, who would then end up employing some of these guys who might be artisanal miners anyway, so they wouldn't miss out? But we know that the more capital you allocate to something, the more efficiently the mining can be. So would it not be better to direct the department's efforts towards making it easier to be a small-scale miner than to be an artisanal miner? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got just a few questions. I just want to check one. The strategy implemented to prevent the child labor in the small-scale mining, because it doesn't maybe indicate or show like what really strategies do they implement to do their labor in that. And then I'm checking the protection and the prevention of the child labor in that instance. Number 2, what is the development does the department has for this small-scale mining, that for the period that they've been existing? Do you, as the department, have any support for them that not to remain in the same position? Do you have any plan to develop them from where they are to become junior miners? Then the other thing that can perhaps the department give the data of small-scale miners and the production level in what they are doing, the production, how is it variable, what is it contributing towards the GDP. And then the future prospecting opportunity for this year, the one that I've done. Do you have the data of any areas, if you can indicate the areas across 9 provinces, or what's the possible areas, if you can indicate that maybe the people at home, our communities, maybe they can look into venture in those spaces perhaps if you have anything that maybe this the area in this province that people, if they might go to that one after they know that there's this opportunity of small-scale artisanal mining, they can grab into that opportunity, because some people, they are exposed to those things, but one should indicate this. It can be one of the things that can make you a small scale, like you can go for clay. I assume that clay can produce the bricks, and you may find it across the 9 provinces. There's clay. There's your, let me put, for instance, in the mining areas, there's sandstone that is been mined out when you are taking out any other mineral. But the sandstone can become something that you can use as an artisanal mining. Then your granite stone, when you're blasting, you find that coal, that granite stone. Then I'm checking with those kind of things as the department. Do you perhaps consider them, that the people, if they can work with those kind of things, they are also falling under the small scale mining that also can produce employment and businesses? I'm checking on that one. And then the last one, the application process for financial support or financial aid to the, how long does it take, and the requirements for one applying for the grant? You said it's not a loan, it's a grant. How long does it take for one starting from you and apply it, and then how long does it take? Because I've referred some people to you, DDG. There's no response yet. I personally referred people to you that there's this opportunity that you may tap in, you might find the assistant, but there's no response. They're calling me every day, but I said it one day, I'll meet you too. This is an opportunity today so that you may know. Then the other one, the license, the mining permit, you've mentioned that is not as same as the permit for one who's applying for a coal permit of sort. It's not the same. Then one, if may I give an understanding that how long does it take, and then what are the requirements for one to get the license for doing the small scale mining? I think.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you to the department for the presentation. I agree with the Honorable Selepe, because we are getting beautiful presentations, but the implementation or the experiences of our communities on the ground are not as the presentations that we are getting here within the committee. There were several times that we had to intervene in cases in Burgersfort and those areas where people have to even at times travel to Johannesburg to go and get information. So to that extent, DG and Minister and DGT, what programs do you have, or offices that are nearby to these areas that you indicated on the map for those communities? Because at times those communities have to travel long distances and they don't get the help that they need, or a person will just say, no, here's the documents, go and fill it in at home. And we're talking about people that may perhaps don't have the skills or requirements to complete this documentation, and then the applications get denied. And then I want to agree with the Chair on the 114 applications. What was the criteria for the 20 that you have selected, the 20, and that the 20's names also be published so that we can follow up and follow the money where it's going, and the areas where these projects are. And I think the Honorable Selepe also indicated to it Because you mentioned in Northern Cape there's 4 projects, Northwest 6, Limpopo 6, Jalo and Mpumalanga 2, KZN 2. In which areas specifically or towns are these projects, so that one can also follow it up and do active oversight, because we are sitting with a huge crisis, and had we do what we say on paper, we wouldn't sit with a huge crisis that we are having currently as a country in terms of illegal mining that is happening. So I really want to be convinced that these communities will be getting the help from the department, as the departments put on the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson and Department, for the presentation. Chairperson, I only have 2 questions on this presentation.
Please raise your voice.
Well, thank you, Chairperson and the Department, for the presentation. And good morning to the Honorable Minister. Actually, I only have 2 questions on the presentation. Number 1, I would like to know what discussions has the department had with the large mining companies on behalf of the artisanal and small-scale miners to assist them? Is the department facilitating tributing agreements? Is there progress and a good reception from the large mining companies? Number 2, Chair, based on the department annual reports, the target number of miners receiving financial support has decreased from 30 to 3 per year. I would like to know what is the reason behind this decision to reduce the target, and what measures are put in place to augment this decision. Thank you, Chairperson.
Those are the questions, Honorable Minister.
I will ask the British to take the first cut.
Thank you, members. Let me start with, and obviously I've got my colleague here to help me, especially from the criteria that we used and how we reduced the number from 114. But what we have seen, and this is by nature of the type of applications that we're receiving. The 114 number, large part of it, it's people who just want to enter the industry. They don't have a permit. They just say, I'm so-and-so, I'm from this location, I've seen the department, I'm responding. So those are the ones that majority fell into the cracks, because one of the key criteria, you must be a mining permit holder to qualify. Yes, those, we don't just leave them behind. We also try to reach them, and now they follow into the training programs that we are doing and the awareness. We call them to come so that they can understand how to participate in the funding. The issue, that is the issue about dropping from 114 and in the pot. Yes, Chairperson, you're correct. There was a period, I mean, this fund was not just introduced recently. Number 1, we receive annually 25 million rand allocation from National Treasury, but there was a period of a gap, I think 3 to 4 years, coupled with COVID and other issues. So that 25 million accumulated to the number that you just mentioned. So we had a gap where we didn't open for calls, I think, over 2 to 3 years. So that's why now we have over 100 million in the pot. We would like to, yes, use up all the money so that we can reach as many communities as possible, provided that, yes, the criteria that we have set, one could say slightly stringent, but we are trying to help those that are already in the industry. And those who want to enter the industry, they fall into a different category, where we take them through the training programs, hand-holding them, hence the 200 women that we have trained. The idea is also to promote that grouping into the fund. So that's on the 65. The calls, what mechanism are we using, considering that we're talking about poor people that are not as easily, that they don't have access to media. We use newspapers. We also use our offices that we go on the ground to promote the fund. Newspapers, local community radio stations, through traditional leaders, the engagements that we've been having with the local traditional leaders. That's how we try to reach as much as possible of aspirant miners throughout the country. Issue about compliance, yes, to a certain extent, even though there's capex component, but bulk of the money, yes, there's an element of compliance. But talking about capex, most of these aspirant miners, they're already in the field. They already started small projects, but they're in need of, especially on the small scale side, a simple small crusher. You know, especially in areas where they're doing aggregates, to your point, or stones. So that is what constitutes capex. A small crusher could cost you as much as 6-7 million. So we have seen that on average, the applications that we are having, their capex ranges from 5 up to 10 million, and we try to also not to expose, to limit our exposure to one applications. So it will cover capex. It will cover to a certain extent working capital. The aspirant miner will be employing, in most cases, 5 to 6 people. And yes, we look at the salaries that they have to earn. We're not talking about exorbitant amount of money. So on average, 5 to 7 million. So it will go to what a crusher, a little bit of a tipper there. So that is just to give you an example. Where does the money go to? The issue about tax, because now we are considering this as projects. They're not yet fully fledged business that are running. So yes, the issue, the idea is to graduate this project to become sustainable small businesses, of which now issue of tax. Yes, we all know that we are governed by the tax laws in the corporate tax in South Africa. So over time, once the business become self-sustaining, they will be they'll have to abide with the laws from tax perspective. Yes, the issue about our onerous process, and that's the reason with the policy, when the policy was crafted in a way to, like I said, giving this industry its own identity, and also to reduce the burden that the applicants normally succumb to from that onerous process and compliance point of view. And that is the work that we are also still considering, to say, within the levers of the MPRDA, which lever can we pull to just try to address a little bit on that aspect of the processes. Brownfields versus greenfields, most of them are actually brownfields, where there's a little bit of an operation. The guys just need a helping hand. The issue about government potentially, subsidizing the industry over a long term, I think the fund is just created, just like a prospecting, junior mining exploration fund. It's a seed. It's just to, provide a helping hand, give it a start as a project, but with the view that as the project matures, now we've established a business that can now employ people around the communities, a business that can now be financially sustainable, a business that can even access now further funding for expansion through IDC. So that is the whole idea, not necessarily that government is just always going to keep on subsidizing, but government is here as the department to provide just a little bit of a helping hand, a startup, call it a startup, that is WISER grant, so that over time we can see, similarly with SMMEs, we have a lot of government programs that just support SMEs with that seed fund, and after that we'll see the business sustaining themselves. So it's a similar concept. Issues about appointment of child labor issues, we all know that we are governed by labor laws within the country. So we don't see, I don't see it as a challenge, but everyone must abide by the law. But most projects that we've seen, yes, they have youth. We haven't experienced any child labor as yet. The provision of data on existing ASM, production levels. Yes, it's still, you know, given the nature of the industry, not every information is available, but we can share data, production data, where we have access to such information. The issue about, I think it goes back to what the Honorable Minister has said in his response about providing the list of beneficiaries. Obviously, we'll get further guidance on this one as well. Data about areas with high potential. Yes, we work closely, I think, within our adjudication committee. We have Mintech sitting there. We have Council of Geoscience that have history about geological mapping. So that data is readily available. Hotspot areas that have a high potential, even when we were doing the, call it a compliance check, we do through Council of Geoscience, we do get advised that, okay, this area, yes, there is a potential. I think that is an application that we consider. And in other instances, we've seen areas where Council of Geoscience said, you know what, with what we are trying to intend, we are not actually recommending that we should consider this. They should maybe follow a different approach. So we have that information, Honorable Senator, we can share with you. On your comment about reaching out to me, you're absolutely correct, you did. But as I've explained, we're going to run another round of applications, but it doesn't end there. We'll also engage with those communities who have mentioned through the DMs program. We'll go to those communities, reach out to them, promote the funding, promote the other training programs or opportunities that we have. You also mentioned about sandstone and clay. Yes, it will be considered. I think it falls within the same basket of commodities that we're eyeing. How long does it take to apply? It should be a simple process, but now we have, shall I say, streamlined our standard operating procedures. We have learned in this last round, the lessons that have learned from this round, from timing point of view. We of the view that it shouldn't take us longer than 12 months to finish everything. So hopefully in the next round, with the lessons that we have learned, we will be much more efficient, and we will try by all means within one financial year, we issue a call, we adjudicate, and we disperse in that financial year. The mining permit, the regime, yes, currently we're still obviously guided by the Section 27 of the existing Mineral and Petroleum Development Act. We haven't made any amendment. The policy was just thoughts of new concepts to say, oh, and one will appreciate that the policy was gazetted in 2022. We're only trying to amend the MPRDA currently. Yes, we will try to draw some of those concepts that are contained in the policy and see how best they can be addressed in this new amendment process. Information sharing, I think, Honorable Member, yes, we tried through this outreach programs, through radios, through other media channels. We really try hard to have our presence, and also through our regional offices. I mean, despite all these challenges, we've seen some of the positive feedbacks as we go on the roadshow. I think the point I was trying to highlight is we need to do more, we need to reach out more, and that's one of the focus areas, you know, to ensure that we reach out to the people. We don't wait for the people to complain, but we have a dedicated program within the office of the DM to really promote this outreach and reach out those people that are in need, looking for help. I think the issue about 114 applications I've touched. Specific areas or towns or and names of beneficiaries, obviously, like I said, I will take guidance from the DG, as the Minister has already provided the feedback on this. Tributing agreement, let me maybe give my colleague a chance to say through you, DG, to answer. I think he knows more about this tributing agreements. DDG, she's going to help. Through you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Minister, Honorable Chair. So the whole tributing agreements provision is there in the policy, but it's also in existence, and we do promote it. We have examples, living examples of this somewhere in the south coast in KZN, we do have NPC and Dwala carbonates mining the same ore body but extracting different commodities, and they operate through a tributing agreement. And recently there's an added element to that, with a group of women owning a cooperative extracting dolerite out of the same ore body. So you have 3 different companies that are interested in the same area, but they're all interested in different commodities, and they've entered into a tributing agreement, and that is recognized and supported by the department.
In my previous life, I ran a bursary scheme.
Remind me of the chair, previous chair.
In my previous life, chairperson, I ran a bursary scheme. You will remember there was something that we called the JP Max Education Trust. We gave bursaries to children of mine workers, members of the NUR. One of the things that I learned in that process is that you never drive your marketing of a good scheme to have flooding of the scheme, because that risk is actually a bigger risk to collapse it. We're starting a new initiative here. We want to start artisanal miners, want to have case studies that we can look into and quantify success. That's why the allocation of funding should be regulated carefully. The worst presentation I would like to bring here, Chairperson, is when the committee summons me because the Auditor General says, guys, you have spent money recklessly. I don't want to be here for that. I would prefer a situation where we are questioned about a surplus that remains. That is a better presentation to the portfolio committee. The acreage for artisanal and small scale development is in stages. Artisanal is very personal, small. I call it hammer and chisel. That's how I call it, hammer and chisel. It's smaller than a small scale mine, which will be a small group of people. And every artisanal miner wants to grow into a small scale miner. Every small scale miner wants to grow into a medium-sized company, and so forth and so forth. So the acreage is looking at the level of development of the applicant. That's what the difference will be. Why only 20 applicants were approved? People must meet criteria that are set. Otherwise, it becomes a slush fund where you stand in a corner, you just distribute money. People must meet the criteria set. Actually, to be honest with you, you experiment with 20 is quite a big number for a start. You must observe it, you must assess it, if it is really making progress. And why do we limit it and not allocate it according to budget? It's because one of the things that you avoid when there is money, money must not make you anxious. You want to spend it. Money must be spent such that you have value for that money. And that's why the limit is always important. My father used to tell me that if he sent me to shop, I don't bring the change, I get a big hiding. Because he said, oh, because you've changed now, you get anxious, you want to buy sweets that were not in the list, then I get a hiding. It's quite important that if 20 applications are approved, they must be assessed so that when we do follow up, we must be able to draw lessons from that 20 and grow the fund. We're still going to go around asking various institutions to contribute to this fund. And when the day it is big, the limit will be extended with the size of the funding. But if you don't have that funding, because Honorable Lorima says 3.4 million is too expensive. I don't think so, because mining by itself is not a cheap entity. If I was given an agricultural project, I would say the same, that 3.4 million is a lot, because I look at the cost of a cow, the cost of a sheep, the cost of plowing. That would be a lot of money. But in the mine, protective clothes, actually mechanism, machinery, that is small scale, because you can have hammer and chisel. But as you begin to grow, you're going to use a smaller machinery to help you produce. So we put money for these startups to grow. We don't want them to stagnate, they must grow. And that's the contradiction, Honorable Rima, because you are making a very important observation that this can't fly because of environmental demands, because of health and safety. You are right. Therefore, if you begin to look into all those, and another number of other lists, 3.4 million is not a lot of money. And actual health and safety is not only working underground, it works on open cast. It works on open cast. Health and safety is important. When you mine there, Honorable Chairperson, you see, you put your CM to cut, but you leave a stick side. Because safety is important on surface, additional support. So these demands are going to be on those small-scale miners. And this takes me to the point that was asked whether we are engaging major companies. We do talk to major companies. For example, we're engaging Sibanye Stillwater now for their care and maintenance shaft number 4 in Kloof. We said if we can have a scheme that involves workers and Sibanye Stillwater provide basic infrastructure, we can turn that thing around instead of just retrenching everybody. So that's the only discussion we have with major companies, is when they have an area they want to put on care and maintenance, and we say, but it can be used productively. If you don't do that, it is going to attract illegal mining, because miners know that there's still gold there. They follow it in their own good time, and illegal mining grows because they know they are not just doing it. They sniff around, they know where they left deposits, but those deposits are too small for major companies. So we must engage those major companies to assist these artisanal and small-scale miners all the time. In future, I would ask Uba Uslepe, angezapha atuthumela abantu, but I personally send people, because you are complicating the space. Because those people are by an MP. Any department is put under pressure by an MP who sends personally people to the department. I don't think it's a correct thing to do. Advise them, they must go themselves. Don't send them there. And your name must not feature there, because your name put pressure on the officials who process those applications. And as an advice I'm giving you for free, I won't charge you for it, but I'm giving you that advice. The question of crisis of illegal mining, we're mining for over 140 years. This development is sure to happen. It's sure to happen because there are quite a number of shafts that have been left, and mine workers know those shafts, and they follow. You know, one mine worker was telling us how to they detect where there is a deposit. When they go to an underground and closed shaft, and they see pipes, they follow the pipes because they know the spikes go to the siding where there are deposits. So miners know they have what is called prior learning. They understand mining in details. So when they go underground, they know. When there are no miners, you see the disaster that happened in the Free State, where they went down a ventilation shaft and methane killed them. When that happens, you know that there was no miner among those people. Those were people who just went underground. They don't have the background. If you are a miner, you know that you can't go down a ventilation shaft. Methane is going to kill you anyway. So you are inviting the killing by methane. So all these issues are quite important to us. But what we are trying to do here is to establish artisanal miners who must grow into small-scale miners. We're working with small-scale miners who must grow into medium and junior miners. And we're also working with junior miners who must become major mining companies. Few of them are graduating to that level. So that is the objective. But as you start, when you start, there's an element of trial and error. You commit mistakes in trying to do this and that. We must never run away when we commit mistakes. It is not never to fall, but it's to try to stand up every time you fall. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and the Department. Honorable members, we will now step off that first session of our meeting and go to the second session of the meeting, which really will be the consideration of the report of the Commission for Gender Equality, which the presentation was sent to members, and I believe that members have familiarized themselves with the presentation. I will ask a question after my remarks, so you will respond either by leaving or staying, not now. So, in 2014-2015, honorable members, the CGE launched a monitoring program to assess gender mainstreaming in the mining sector. And they focused on 2 mining houses. It was African Rainbow Minerals and Anglo-American South Africa. And they will explain why they chose the 2 and not others. Now, they crafted a list of recommendations to address these challenges that the study uncovered. And in 2023-2024 financial year, they assessed the mining houses' progress in addressing the policy recommendations that they made in the 2014-2015 report. And the follow-up report that was completed in 2023-2024 financial year was referred to this committee by the Speaker of the National Assembly to process, and that was around 10 July 2024. Already we are late with it. And when a report of this nature is referred to the committee by the Speaker, we have an obligation by law to process it and report to the Speaker. It's by law, so it will even go to the National Assembly for adoption. And that's why we're having this briefing today. You would remember in our visit to the mining houses that issues of gender mainstreaming in the mining industry was a challenge. And that's why we need to focus on it, because we've had the issues of sexual violence, women being abused either for being assisted in terms of muscles to do the job that otherwise they could not do. So we believe that this presentation will assist us in dealing with those issues affecting women in mining. Now, when a presentation or a report, Honorable Minister, is brought to us, and we interact with it and are obligated to report to the Speaker, it's advisable that we process it in your presence. It may not be you physically, but the department. Because what we are going to recommend there, fortunately or unfortunately, it will have to be implemented, either by yourselves or the mining houses in general. So here comes the question. Do you still want to be excused or you want to stay?
The first thing is that we don't have the report. So what you're talking about, we don't know what you're talking about. Ideally, if you wanted us, we should have received the report as well, so that we participate actively to it. At this point, otherwise we're going to seem like shop stewards of mining houses. I think those mining houses must be called to the portfolio committee. They respond for themselves.
Okay.
Our view is that we should not be dragged into the discussion of a report we do not have.
Maybe an intervention there will assist the Honorable Minister. You have a PLO, and I've said this before. Yeah, it's not my duty to speak to him about it. You have a PLO who knows where the report is. We can assure you that the report was circulated beforehand. If you have other commitments, I will release you, but I would request that some of your officials remain behind to listen to the report. But the report has been circulated. I think it has 5 days in emails as we speak now.
Yes.
And by the way, Minister, this ATC that was done on 10 July, the department should know about it. Because ATCs, by their very nature, the PLO has access to them. I just want us to deal with this issue once and for all, because it keeps coming.
Honorable Chairperson, I am very respectful of the portfolio committee. Very respectful of it. When you call me here, I do come all the time. It's not out of convenience. I do it as a matter of duty, but I think if there is a serious report about our department, we have not seen it. Dragging us into a meeting is not helpful to us. I think we should get that report. Further down the line, we can summon us. Yeah, that's the issue. We don't have that report. Our officials have not seen it. I have not seen it. I don't want to speak for the PLO. I'm just explaining that we have not seen that report. We don't have it. So I think to be dragged into discussing it is not advantageous to us. It is going to leave us hanging. That we've been here and we take decisions. It's pounding on us because we're here, but the result of the matter we don't know, because I don't know what the Commission for Gender Equality says about mining, because I will give you a history of mining that at a point was not allowing women to work in the mines. We struggled and fought for it to be opened. I can tell you that we have more than 72,000 mine workers being female today, and to us that is progress. So I don't want to argue for ARM or for the next company. Those companies must respond for themselves. But in our monitoring the progress we are making in terms of women, 4 of companies in the JSC that are headed by female CEOs, 2 of them are in mining. the other two are in all other structures. So when I come to that discussion, I will have to come with that background information. But I think it's unfair today to drag us into this discussion. We have not seen the report.
Okay. No, it's fine, Minister. We'll proceed with the presentation from CGE, and then we'll afford the department some slot to come and respond to the report. I think, honorable members, let's break for 2 minutes for CGE to set up their laptops there, and we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. I need not completely.